One of his soldiers had been gravely wounded during the battle and was on the verge of death. But this wouldn't be an ordinary death. Just as the enemy ships approached overhead, a brilliant white light shot out from the soldier's eyes, obliterating all the enemy ships within seconds. The energy was so intense that even the rest of the crew, watching the enemy ships explode from afar, froze in awe at the power. With the death of just one human, dozens of enemy ships had been destroyed. In this story, we will explore how humanity turned mortality to its advantage and discovered the power of death energy. As humanity struggled to survive in galactic wars, they discovered a power they had long been unaware of: the intense life energy released from their bodies at the moment of death. When scientists and engineers first noticed this energy, they didn't realize its immense potential. However, the brutal conditions of war forced humanity to come up with more creative solutions than ever before. Early experiments showed that the energy wave, which exploded from a human's body in the fraction of a heartbeat at the moment of death, carried enormous power. Tiberius and his team began researching whether this wave could be used as a weapon. At first, the idea seemed impossible, but they had no other choice in the face of the enemies threatening the galaxy. Tiberius, a cold-blooded officer, was exhausted from the challenges of war, yet he believed that the only way to save the galaxy was through this newly discovered death energy. His entire team began conducting experiments on terminal subjects to study the energy. Every soldier's death was analyzed with precise measurements, mapping out the distribution of energy. One day, during a massive attack, human warriors were nearly cornered by enemy forces. As the enemy ships bombarded human bases, a group of soldiers led by Tiberius sacrificed themselves, combining their death energies instead of retreating. In that moment, a massive explosion occurred, so powerful that it wiped out the entire enemy fleet in a single strike. This event proved that death energy could become humanity's most powerful weapon. From then on, every human warrior could deliver a devastating blow to the enemy, even in their final moments. Inspired by Tiberius' victory, engineers began developing devices that could more effectively harness the energy released at the moment of death. Thanks to a mechanism attached to each warrior's body, the energy could be directed toward enemy forces. In this way, the death of even a single human could change the course of galactic war. A new era had begun for humanity. Battles were now being won with the terrifying power of the fallen. Even though enemies amassed greater forces to destroy humans, the deaths of thousands of humans in each battle were transformed into galaxy-shaking energy waves. Tiberius' name had become legendary on the galactic battlefields. Humanity could now win the war not only by living but by dying as well. Humanity's place in galactic warfare had completely changed. Each human warrior had turned into a death machine, defending the galaxy even in their last moments. Human engineers, by improving the devices that directed the energy released at death, ensured this power could be used more effectively. With this technology, the death of every soldier could unleash massive energy blasts capable of obliterating enemy forces. Tiberius, along with a group of soldiers equipped with this new power, set out for one of the most dangerous fronts in the galaxy, the Orion Belt. The Orion Belt was one of the galaxy's most strategic regions, and enemy races planned to capture it to halt humanity's advance. Tiberius' mission was to defend this critical zone and push back the enemy forces. But this would not be an easy task, as the enemy races had gathered a stronger fleet than ever before. As the human fleet approached the Orion Belt, it seemed like the enemy ships were waiting for them. Each one was massive, with thousands of weapon systems gleaming on their surfaces. Tiberius' ship led the fleet. Although humans were outnumbered, the death energy technology they possessed gave them an advantage. However, the enemy's awareness of this technology made the battle even more challenging. Tiberius stood in the control room of his ship as the first enemy assault began. Laser cannons slammed into the ship's shields, causing it to shudder. Surrounded by fire, Tiberius remained calm. He turned to his soldiers and said, "The time has come. Everyone, be ready." They endured the initial attack and managed to lure the enemy ships closer. Tiberius' strategy was to pull the enemy as close as possible and then use the death energy bursts for maximum impact. "Status report," he shouted. One soldier was gravely wounded, on the verge of death. Tiberius calmly approached him. "Be brave, son. Your sacrifice will be the key to victory in this battle," he said. The soldier activated the death device. He looked into Tiberius' eyes and gave a slight nod. At that very moment, the enemy ships had drawn near. The moment of the explosion resonated across the universe. As the soldier's body met death, a wave of white energy burst forth, disintegrating the enemy ships in seconds. Massive explosions lit up the void of space. For a moment, Tiberius and his crew stood in silence, awestruck by the incredible power. The enemies were in shock. In what they believed to be a sure victory, they had suffered devastating losses. The enemy reinforcements that replaced the destroyed ships had yet to grasp Tiberius' strategy. Every human warrior's death spelled their destruction. Even as the enemy ships attempted to retreat, each was hit by the human soldier's energy. A second explosion occurred, triggered by another soldier's sacrifice. This time, the enemy command ship was destroyed by the death wave. The explosion was so massive that it killed all the officers aboard, leaving the enemy fleet leaderless. The humans, under Tiberius' leadership, did not fear death. For them, death had become part of the victory. But for their enemies, this new strategy had become their worst nightmare. The death of a single human unleashed a colossal energy burst capable of destroying even the most powerful ships in the galaxy. The enemy races quickly began to retreat. The Battle of the Orion Belt echoed throughout the galaxy. Humanity's death energy technology hadn't just won a battle. It had taught their enemies the true meaning of fear. Humans were now defending the galaxy not just with their lives, but with their deaths as well. After the victory, Tiberius and his team surveyed the battlefield. The wreckage of hundreds of enemy ships floated through the void. Humanity had taken a major step toward becoming the most powerful race in the galaxy. But the victory had come at a high cost. Many brave soldiers had lost their lives. Yet their sacrifices were powerful enough to change the fate of the galaxy. Tiberius felt both the pride of victory and the pain of loss. He could sense the wave of fear spreading among the enemy races. Now everyone knew that humans could reach victory with death energy. The Battle of the Orion Belt had been a major turning point for humanity. The enemy races had witnessed the power of death energy technology and retreated. However, the galactic war was far from over. The enemies were reorganizing and preparing for a stronger attack. Tiberius and his team were well aware of this reality. Humanity had emerged victorious with the power of death energy, but every passing day brought the inevitability of a new battle closer. The enemy races had formed an alliance, combining all their forces into one massive army. This army was composed of warships from the farthest corners of the galaxy, colossal space stations, and millions of soldiers. Intelligence reports to Tiberius confirmed that the enemy was preparing to deal a final, fatal blow to humanity. Tiberius was more determined than ever to defend humanity's future. The day the battle was set to begin, humans and the enemy alliance faced off in the galaxy's largest battlefield. This region was crucial for both sides to gain strategic superiority. Tiberius' fleet was small compared to the enormous enemy ships, but they trusted in the power of their death energy technology. As the battle began, space was filled with deadly laser beams, explosions, and waves of energy. Tiberius stood on the bridge of his ship, carefully watching the movements of the enemy fleet. Everything could end in a split-second mistake. The communications officer spoke loudly. "Enemy ships are approaching, Commander." Tiberius kept his composure and gave the order. "Be patient, wait. Let them get even closer." The enemy ships slowly closed in, on the verge of surrounding the human fleet. The first clash. When the enemy ships launched their full attack, the human ships activated their shields. The sound of explosions echoed in space, combined with the lasers crashing into the shields. Tiberius' ship began to shake, but they still hadn't made a move. This time, the enemy alliance was not completely unprepared. After the first major blast, they activated new shield systems capable of absorbing some of the death energy waves. Tiberius quickly realized the enemy's strategy and knew he had to make a swift decision. "We need to prepare for a bigger attack," he said. "Humanity expects sacrifice from us today. We must unite our strength and destroy them." Tiberius sent a command to all human ships. Every volunteer fighter would activate their death energy devices simultaneously and combine all their energy into a single massive blast. This had never been done before in human history and carried a great risk. But they had no other choice. It was all or nothing. The human ships charged toward the enemy lines. Every fighter prepared their devices and, with deliberate courage and sacrifice, awaited death to channel their energy toward the enemy. At that moment, Tiberius' voice echoed through the ships. "Is everyone ready? This is our last chance. We will show the enemy the full extent of our power." When the final order was given, dozens of brave human fighters simultaneously attacked the enemy ships, releasing their death energy. The resulting wave of energy was so immense it shook the entire galaxy. This time, even the shields couldn't hold up. When the blast hit the enemy alliance's flagship, the ship's entire systems collapsed, and its crew was obliterated by the massive explosion. One by one, the other ships began to explode as well. The energy wave was an unprecedented force in galactic history. The enemy alliance was utterly defeated by this attack. Once again, humanity had proven how powerful death could be as a weapon. At the end of the battle, the galaxy fell into silence. From the bridge of his ship, Tiberius gazed into the depths of space. The remnants of enemy ships floated aimlessly in the void. Humanity had won another victory, but the cost was heavy. Many brave soldiers had lost their lives, but their sacrifices had altered the fate of the galaxy. Tiberius took a deep breath. Humanity had learned to achieve victory through death, and this victory would resonate across the galaxy, marking humans not only as a living race but as a force capable of fighting even in death. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.